So today I am sitting with Courtney Carson. He
Hello.
is the Vice President of External Relations
Yes,
and
ma'am.
or Affairs. Correct me on that.
External relations.
External Relations for
hmm
Richland Community College.
hmm
How long have you been in that role out there?
2 years for the most part, because I was quite naturally assistant vice president and then transitioned over to vice president. So 2 years.
And how long have you been working alongside Richland?
Since 2017, 18.
Okay.
Yeah,
And what
so a
was your
while.
initial role out there?
So my initial role was director of Enrich, executive director of Enrich. Well, let's rewind that. And in the beginning, I was on a contract with Richland
Okay.
to change a workforce program around. They were suffering a little bit. In 3 years, they had put 6 people to work. And when I got there, I took on that particular challenge. And then the next 3 years, I was able to put 42 people out of 44 people to
Wow.
work. And I brought a interesting approach to workforce where I focus on trauma-sensitive practices and everything that an individual go through when they're being regulated or they activate their parasympathetic nervous system. So it's my job to trigger the subject in such a way and then teach that particular individual how to regulate their trauma experience. And it's been great, right? Because anybody can shake a hand and look in somebody's eyes and get a job, but can you keep the job and grow on the job and become successful on that job or just become a successful human being in life, period? And so that's more so what I focus on. So it's really bigger than just going to work. It's
Oh,
about
yeah.
being the best you that you can be in life. For those who you have responsibility for, your wife, your significant other, your husband, your children. If you're a son to a mother, then be the best son that you can be. If you're a father to a son, then be the best father, or mother to a son. Be the best mother or father that you can be. So we teach that at Richland Community College, and it's transferred over into so many of the college and so many other things that we do there. It's been magnificent.
That's incredible and such an innovative approach, I feel like, to education. And I would love to touch on that, but let's backtrack a little bit. Now,
Okay.
you are a Decatur native, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of backstory of who you are and where you come from with Decatur.
So I have an intimate relationship with
An
the city of
intimate,
Decatur.
okay.
Intimate relationship here. I've been born and raised here in the city. Went to K through 12 system. Was expelled in high school, right?
Okay.
Due to a fight there, and that was one of the most challenging times in my life, but most rewarding at the same time, right? Once I replaced hustle with impact, I was able to see my life grow in such a way that I couldn't, I still can't even imagine it. It's still like a
Wow.
dream, right?
Yeah.
And so in Decatur, grew up down the street from here in a project called Greenwood.
Okay.
And didn't have a significant relationship with my biological father, but my mother was always there. And she had to be mom and dad. She had to be mom even when I didn't let her be mom.
Yeah.
And I still have a interesting ideal around that. I kind of tear up every time I think about it. Like, how come I never just let my mom be my mom? So when I got into hustling and things such as that as a young person, not eighth grade, but 8 years old, 9 years old, I was trying to sell somebody's drug, right? And behind her back. And then when I finally got to the age where I just told her openly, I felt like she couldn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
So as, a 12-year-old, I'm like, yo, I'm making my own money, so what can you tell me, right? And I wish then I would have just let her be my mother. So
Yeah.
she could tell me good night the same way she told my sisters good night, but I wouldn't allow that to happen. And so by the time I got to a space where it's time to be educated, that attitude kind of transitioned over into the classroom, where I thought I ran the classroom.
Yeah.
So I may have been a challenge for teachers, especially with now that I know about my profession now in the areas of trauma. I learned that at a young age, I could do something, get in trouble, and I wouldn't have to be at school that day. So I would fight a person just to leave school.
Yeah.
So that I wouldn't get picked on, really. Right?
Okay.
Because we didn't have what other kids had. You know, we didn't have the nice shoes. You know, I peed in the bed, so I would go to school sometimes smelling like urine, and you know, so I didn't want to be there. So I learned that okay, all I got to do is fight, and I can go, right? And I think some of that dynamic and the dichotomy of all of that created a situation where I didn't want to have, you know, I didn't want to wear my hand-me-downs anymore, my big brother's clothes that were too big, or my sister's jeans, you know what I'm saying, or holy shoes anymore. So I wanted to go get some money, and I did so. And there's the powerful pressures of poverty would do something to a young person that is unimaginable. And those pressures outweigh at times what a teacher can teach you in the classroom.
Right.
Especially if you don't have a parent there that's saying, no, you got to listen to the teacher. And even when my mother tried, I wouldn't let her tell me anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like poverty has a way of breeding maybe some desperation and survival mode with things, right?
Most certainly. Most certainly.
You know, and as a parent myself, trying to understand my child with different things, I think I've had to kind of peel it back a bit of the times where they're acting out the most.
Yeah.
Is there a need not being met? Is there something that is being overlooked? Is there some sort of affection, attention, safety, something, right? Because the child doesn't always know what's happening.
Right.
I mean, even as an adult, I don't always know what's happening.
Right. Yes.
You know, I've told my husband, you know, growing up, I used to get angry a lot until I learned that I was really scared.
Yeah. Almost certainly.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the outward dramatic expression is really masking something else inside. Yeah. That's really going on.
Yeah.
And that's what it
certainly.
sounds like you were dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
Trying to navigate growing up the way that you did, you know?
Yeah, most certainly. And, you know, there is a significant level of fear behind anger, right? And fear, I have an acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real.
Oh, yeah.
And not, you
That's
know,
good.
believing in what other young people would say about me. It wasn't true, but I would believe it because I didn't have a pair of Michael Jordans on. I wanted to go get the Jordans, right?
Yeah.
And then growing up in a space where everybody around me did, you know, they were hustling. So I was a product of my environment and the proximity in which I lived. So I did what everybody else was around me doing. And I would say that I made an A+ for the mentor at the particular point in time, the guy who was, you know, a mentor in my life. And so I'll talk to young people today. I always tell them, like, yo, you can be exactly who you want to be or who God has called you to be, right? Because if a young person, watch this, if a young person such as myself can understand supply and demand, right? And understand how to convert a kilo into ounces and how to convert an ounce into 28 grams. And that same young man, if he's mentored correctly, taught correctly, can understand algorithms, coding, and agriculture.
Come on, yeah.
Right? And so we just got to turn the page and tap into what young people love and like, and they'll become a person who's able to dream again. But we got to take them outside of their comfort zone, because being in Greenwood Manor was comfortable to me, especially when I learned how to navigate it, right? Especially then I felt some level of acceptance from those who were doing some of the things that I was doing.
Right.
And then you get praise for that negative foolishness, right? And so I would love being around the hood and the block, because that's where my sense of belonging was.
Right.
You know, that's where everybody praised me from the age of 8 on up until, you know, the high school fight for the most part. And there was a different kind of praise after that. But before that, I didn't know what college was. I didn't know, you know, I went to high school to either play basketball or to make some money during lunch. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, okay, where my clientele at? And so when I was at Eisenhower, I would go to MacArthur to sell some weed. And when I was at MacArthur, I would be at Eisenhower to sell some weed. But I wanted to play basketball at the same time, because I had a gift. And when, you know, a lot of times oftentimes I hear that when you got expelled from high school, or from Eisenhower, during the 99 fight. I said, no, I was really at MacArthur. People think I was at Eisenhower. I was a student at Eisenhower. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But, yeah, so up until, I received some guidance and some mentorship by Reverend Jackson, I was able to see life differently.
Right.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that because he entered your life.
Yes.
Because of the riot, correct?
Right.
Kind of what you've told me revolutionized your life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walk us through that. What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So, I'm not ashamed to say it now, but, I was a 4-year freshman at that particular point in time. So I used to think that Reverend Jackson didn't really necessarily come for me. He came for Peachy, which is Roosevelt Fuller, and Gregory Howe, who were, they were standout students, right? They were going to college. Gregory was going, I think, for a track scholarship.
Okay.
And Peachy was going for a basketball scholarship, going to college. And at the time, I'm like, yo, y'all can have it. That's y'all thing. My thing is in the streets. But I wanted to play basketball that year. So when Reverend Jackson came and I saw this man, and I'll add this too, I didn't know who he was, but I saw this aura on him. There was a significant glow around Reverend Jackson, and it was mesmerizing and outstanding and attractive. And this man gave me life lessons as soon as he opened his mouth. And then what he did for me personally, I'm not sure for the other brothers, but he did it he gave them the same opportunity. They just didn't receive it the way that I did. But he spent one-on-one time with us. Well, he spent 7-on-1 time with us. I'll say it like that because it was always the 7. And I would listen to him. But when I asked questions a lot, kind of like my sons, but I would ask him questions and he would respond and just give me the best advice, just some of the essential skills that I needed for my life that would enrich my whole understanding. I mean, from being a father, because I was a young father, I had my first baby at the age of 15, my second child at the age of 18. But being a young father, he would say, man, your first responsibility is to that child. So a man is not a man unless he's spending time with his child.
Wow.
And I took that to heart. So I was a present dad.
Yeah.
As present as I could be, right? With what I knew.
Right.
So I didn't marry the mother of my first daughter, or my daughter, but I was present in her life because of what Reverend Jackson told me. He said, you got to do that. So I did it. Right. And I don't wear earrings today because Reverend Jackson.
Oh, no.
He said, hey, man, take those things out your ears. It look like you got a booger in your nose.
Oh, man.
And so I took them out. And every time I would call little old me, right? And this man is, when I learned who he was, he's everywhere. He's a part of everything that's going on in the country, whether it's negotiating the release of POWs, whether it's on the front line fighting civil rights. No matter what, every time I called Reverend Jackson, he answered the phone.
That's incredible.
And if he did not answer, he called me back. And I thought that was amazing. And it was a time when I went to college. I wanted to drop out. I called Reverend Jackson. And he said, hey, how quickly can you get here? I says, 2 hours, because I feel like it's right after basketball practice. I need to freshen up. He said, get here in 30 minutes. And I said, wait a minute. It's a 45-minute drive. But I'm about to quit basketball. I'm about to quit school. I'm done. I'm stressed out. I'm frustrated in school, right, in college. So I get to the Rainbow Push office, and he allows me to travel with him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we went to California, and he did, the more and more he showed me life, the more and more I wanted to live it, right? Because he showed me something different. Even when we were in high school, I was able to see something other than Decatur. I was able to see something other than the black circle, that circle that I talked about, where they would praise you for selling drugs, or praising you for fighting, or praising you for doing something negative. I was able to see life outside of that, and that life I wanted. I wanted to live it. And so every moments of struggle, when I would meet challenging controversy psychologically, he would take me out of that and put me right back in mode, and right back into a space where I felt like I could make it, right? And that's what Reverend Jackson did for me. And he became a father figure to me.
Yeah.
We still talk today. And a beautiful conversation. And he still calls me, I mean, quite naturally, because one of the spokespersons for the Rainbow Push Coalition. So if it's something downstate that he needs done, he know that he can call me and I'll get that done. So I thank God for my relationship with him.
That's just sounds incredible. When you were describing him earlier, walking into the room, I was like, I got chills of like imagining this man whom I haven't met, but sounds like bringing such a beacon of hope.
Oh, most certainly.
Into your vision and being that fatherly role of being able to call you out and call you up and really speak life into you in those ways. What a incredible opportunity from such a hard circumstance. I mean, obviously with the riot and being expelled, but my goodness, think of what came out of that.
And he never made me feel small. I read newspapers when I was in college, and some of the things that people would say here in the city of Decatur, I was like, oh my gosh, that is terrible. Some of the things that people would say to me, whether it was family members or not, it was those words were designed to destroy and distract and deceive me into being something that I knew God didn't call me to be. Right. So it's always important, I think, to respond to people, and such positive reinforcement goes a long way. And just being kind and nice. Reverend Jesse Jackson never had to, but he did. Listen, he never had to, but he did give me some of his time, right? A lot of his time. He didn't have to do it, but he did. For whatever godly reason he did it. I thank God for it. And even still today, when we go visit, some people go to the Rainbow Push Coalition and they see him on the stage or whatever the situation may be. We have that experience with him and that relationship with him. But we get to, my family and I, we get to go to his home and just spend time with him and laugh with him and read books with him. And it's a beautiful thing. I love Reverend Jackson. So shout out to Reverend Jackson. I love you so much, man. Yeah.
So from the riots, you go off to college for a bit.
Yeah.
What do you study while there?
Business.
You knew a lot about business.
Right. I was a street pharmaceutical sales rep.
There you go. You're just explaining you have this skill and this skill and this skill,
Yeah. So I went to school for business and became homeless. So business wasn't going to work. No, I'm just joking. Fun fact, I got a scholarship, basketball scholarship.
Really?
At Black Hawk College.
Okay.
And I didn't have my GED.
Oh.
So I had to come back home and study for the GED.
Okay.
And I did that. And Karen Walker, hats off to her, school teacher, Rodney Walker's wife, she helped me study for that GED. Because when I went to jail and I took the GED test while I was in jail and could not pass it. That summer, after I got that basketball scholarship, finally got my GED. Thank you, Karen Walker, for helping me study for that. And man, when I got the GED, I thought I could conquer the world. It was a hard test. It was one of the greatest challenges of my life to study for that. I missed the Decatur celebration studying for that at Rodney Walker's house. And I was just thankful that he allowed me to spend that kind of time in his house because a lot of people wouldn't because I had a reputation and the record of being a bad guy. Right. So a lot of people wouldn't let me in, but Rodney did. And Karen tutored me and I passed it. Then I went off to school. But I got homeless. I had to sleep in my car for a couple of days, right? Okay. And I swore that I would not go back to selling drugs. So the tempt was there.
Oh, I bet.
Right? Temptation was like at an all-time high. And my younger brother, Tony, he was at Aurora University. So I said, man, is there some room for me over there? And I was tired of being homeless. So I left Black Hawk, came back home. Tried out for the basketball team at Aurora University. That coach said yes. I went to Aurora University and life just took off.
That's
it was
incredible.
Amazing. I'm talking about, the kid that was a 4-year freshman in high school at Aurora University. I graduated there with my bachelor's in double major, communication and religion study with a minor in psychology.
Okay.
But I graduated with a 3.7.
That's incredible.
Isn't that all right?
Yeah.
So from a 4-year freshman, but then I go to college, double major, and a minor in psychology, and graduate with a 3.7. Now, that's amazing to me. So graduated there, and then I went on to pursue my master's, biblical studies, and got a master's of divinity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So out of college, did you come right back to Decatur? I would imagine, and some of this might be inference, but I would imagine from kind of the history that you had here, it might not be your ideal choice.
Did not want to.
Okay.
Did not want to.
I was going to say, I don't want to make that up, but I would
Yeah.
feel like that would be a hard thing to kind of come back to this place.
Did not want to come back to the city of Decatur. I had bad memories. Although we had remarkable marches, right? There was some significant challenges that I just did not want to face
Yeah.
here in the city of Decatur. And I still had the reputation of the bad guy, right? I saw how many people were in support of the students, but I recognized who was not. I remember my favorite teacher, my best experience in the classroom, but I saw on television that teacher saying, if y'all let them kids back into school, we gonna walk out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love you. Why would you do, you know?
Yeah.
But all that stuff, the trauma that was associated to that moment still
Right.
lived on the inside. So I didn't want to come back. Reverend Jackson actually challenged me to come back to the Decatur.
Really?
Yeah. So he had me set up perfectly to take over as a director in the youth department in the Push Coalition, in the Rainbow Push Coalition. So he had it set up perfectly, but he challenged me. He leaned back in his chair in his office and said, well, a man ain't a man unless a man can go back to his own home and clean his own home up. And I said,
Ooh.
so I am a man that believes that you are only as great as your greatest challenge. Right.
Yeah.
So I took on that challenge. I came back home and oh my God, I could not get employment anywhere.
Right.
Because of course I had the reputation and the record. A lot of
Yeah.
times people got the record, but they don't have the reputation. So they
Yeah.
can hide a little bit. I could not hide. And I think that's the reason I'm extremely transparent today.
Yeah.
I could not hide my life.
Because those riots, I mean, they went nationally.
Oh, yeah, most certainly.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I actually remember watching it on TV. Yeah. I remember where I was because my family's from Decatur, even though I grew up just outside of Decatur in Niantic.
Okay.
I remember watching it on the news
Yeah.
and everything that happened, and Jackson coming to town
Yeah.
and all the stuff. Yeah.
And the Klan was here as well. So
I
that
don't
was
remember
scary.
that. Man,
What?
that would be scary.
You read about the Klan, in high school and grade school, and as early as you can have a conscience,
Gosh.
right? And how they would string up people that looked like
Yeah.
me. So when they came,
That would be terrifying.
listen, I'm a young thug at the time. I wasn't afraid of anybody or no one, right? And when the Klan came, I felt myself being terrified to leave the house.
Yeah.
So they were, and Matt Hale. Matt Hale was here. So he was the leader of the white supremacist group.
Okay.
And
That's some-
today Matt Hale is in prison for trying to kill a judge.
Oh, gosh.
So just imagine,
Yeah.
right? So
That could put some fear in
that
you.
could put some. So I'm like, yeah, I ain't going back to the city of Decatur. But I came back. No one would give me employment. Keith Anderson gave me opportunity with the Homework Hangout, so I was doing some stuff there. But the person who really changed my scope and the narrative of, opened a new chapter in my life was Rachel Joy.
Okay.
And she gave me opportunity with the Dove, Homeward Bound,
Oh,
and
okay.
Darsonia Schweitzer. I love them for taking a chance with me. So there I was able to learn social services the correct way and learn grants the correct way.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, Pastor Jack Greenwood did a thing in my life that changed my life forever.
He's a phenomenal man.
Oh my gosh.
We have personal history with him and changed my husband in a beautiful moment that needed encouraging.
Amen.
Man.
Yeah, so I had an experience with God in Pastor Jack Greenwood's living room with my wife, then girlfriend. And he told me exactly what I would be doing, preparing me for this moment. Told me where I would be doing it
Yeah.
and how long I would be doing it for. And I was like, yeah, right, bro.
Sure.
Yeah, right. How you know all of this, Doc? And so he told me God was telling him exactly what would happen. And next thing you know, my wife gets laid off at ADM. And 2 days later, I get a phone call from the urban league because they had been watching some of the stuff that I was doing in the city, and they gave me opportunity and employment to lead men. And Pastor Jack Greenwood told me that, you know, some of those men, a lot of those men will be older than you, but it's up to you to lead them the right way and show them how to be men. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I took on that assignment, and it was down right in the area he told me it would be. Everything Pastor Jack Greenwood told me, or everything he told me that I would be doing, I began to do. And that was challenging, for a young person to try to lead a grown man, to being a grown man. That's the hardest thing you can do, is remind a grown man that he's a grown man. I mean, we see that in the world today, right?
Right.
And so come back home, and now I have this new assignment, and it's tough because in the same moment I'm teaching individuals how to be men, right? I have to adhere to that as well.
Yeah.
And Dr. Stewart, who was my pastor at the time, he would give me tools, inspirational, motivational, spiritual tools to become a man after God's own heart. And I would share that everything that he would teach me with those men, right? And I would be learning this too at the same time in my growth and development, right? And then counter that, I have to show myself to be this man that's on the level to a community who only remembers the fight, and the felon, and the struggles, right, or the drug dealer, and because I never hid it. People, I'm a truth seeker, so I like to tell the truth, right? And so it was hard to kind of that balance of, well, how can you be so positive but you used to be so negative? And I was like, well, I don't know if I was a negative kid. I just wanted to get some money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know selling drugs is bad, but I wasn't the kid trying to do bad things. I just wanted to get some money to feed not just myself, but my family at that particular point in time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I do.
And I had big brothers that I looked up to that did that. So quite naturally, if I'm around that,
it's all, that's your norm of survival.
Yeah.
That you're kind of taught within those things.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Because birds of a feather flock together, right? And then when I got around an eagle, I began to fly like one.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you come back trying to raise up more eagles.
Right. Come back trying to raise up more eagles. And have to still today remind those same eagles, right? You do not see pigeons flying with eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
What
share the
would
same
you
space.
say, going through the journey that you have, I can't help but really notice just such tenacity and grit. Because it sounds like, you've been knocked down a lot. You've had a lot of people against you. You've had a lot of circumstances tell you no matter how much you're fighting for it, you're not going to get where you're going, be who you're doing. And, I have to know, what are some anchor points for you in really processing that and being able to pull yourself back up and being like, looking in the mirror and I'm like, I'm not that. This is who I am. This is what I'm worth. This is what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And kind of having that grit that's built, I'm sure, over time.
Yeah.
But how do you begin to translate that, to articulate how to encourage that fight, that build in someone?
Yeah. So I would say that it's definitely my faith, tradition, and practice. I'm just crazy enough to believe that all things work together for the good.
Yeah.
I believe that, right? I find my strength in the Lord. I find strength in the Messiah. So with that, I also understand that if I don't know where I come from, I may not know who I am. Right?
Yeah.
And if I don't know who I am, I may mistreat where I am. And if I mistreat where I am, I will cancel out where I need to go. So because I know what my past looked like, I refuse to relive that and cancel out the future that I'm responsible for. Right? Because I'm responsible for God's children. So if I mistreat what I'm doing right now, I cancel out every opportunity that God is using through me to give to them.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? So, and if I cancel that out, then I'm held responsible for messing up what they could have become, what they can become.
Yeah.
Because I did something dumb, ignorant, and stupid in my current state. I believe that we live moment by moment in this particular life, and we got to live these moments. We have to be present in this particular moment right here, or we'll lose this moment. It's almost like suicide, right?
Yeah.
And so in this moment, I got to be the best that I can be, because guess what God did for me? He was the best. He gave 100% at waking me up this morning. So I got to give him a 100% at living this life that he's afforded and given me to live, right? To the best of my ability, because he's given this to me. So I have to respond to him and reciprocate that, right? A lot of people like, yo, Lord, give me. But I'm saying, Lord, I want to give you all of me if I can. So whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing in this moment, I'm giving it my full attention and all of me.
Yeah.
Without a facade and peeling onions back, I'm giving this moment everything that I can. Right? Because this moment will help and save somebody else. So when young people come to me for opportunity, because that's all I give them, right, is the opportunity to become successful, the opportunity to breathe the fresh air of joy, and the joy of saying that, man, I get to go to Richland Community College. I get to go into this program called Enrich. I get to have this opportunity to change my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To put food on the table for my family. To see my baby smile, to see my significant other and or wife or husband smile. That's what we get to do. And it's bigger than Richland Community College.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're dealing with lives here. And I just really believe that on the day I'm to be judged, he going to say to me, how did you treat your wife? And then how did you respond to the responsibility that I gave you with all those 3,000 people?
Yeah.
Because right now we're at 3,124 people in that particular program. And then how did you respond to people in the mall, at Kroger's,
right,
at Walmart? Did you show them me?
Yeah.
Or did you respond to them in a fleshly way? I just wholeheartedly believe that. And so that's how I respond to the tenacity, the grit, is I try to be the best God I can be every single day. When our beloved Lord and Savior, the Messiah, who we call Jesus, says, Lord, give them the same glory that you have given me. Make them one with me as I am one with you. That's not a plaything. I wholeheartedly believe in what he said. So if he says I can move mountains with a mustard seed of faith, I believe I can change folks' lives or give them the opportunity to change their lives.
And isn't that the real mountain in life sometimes?
And that's
changing somebody's heart.
Yes.
Right.
And the way they see themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like, you have had moments, you've shared with us Reverend Jesse Jackson, you've talked about Jack Greenwood, you've talked about Rodney Walker, you've talked about these men and these people who have done that for you. That was so pivotal of bringing in hope, something different, exposure, life, faith.
Yes.
That you've taken it all in one big bag, and you're like, I'm gonna bust open the education system now.
yes.
So,
most certainly.
To kind of get back on track, you were at the Urban League, and from there you transitioned over to Richland.
Yes.
And caught us up from the beginning of where you were, and then shifting over to Vice President of Student External Relations.
Yes.
But I am just so curious of, being the man of faith, being trauma informed, which I'd love to talk on that. How do you create this educational system that really approaches individuals holistically? Yeah.
So one, I think it was a challenge, and maybe it still is a challenge. I just don't recognize the challenge anymore. Right. But when I first met President Valdez, because he's one of those persons that came into my life and changed the totality of who I am, who this person is. I'm talking about, it was who we call Jesus, Jesse, and Valdez.
The
and Chris
the Holy Trinity.
That's the Trinity, right? Because the one thing that he was able to do, and I'm gonna answer your question, but the one thing that he was able to do is respond to me in a way that reaffirms what Reverend Jackson told me as a child. Take care of your family.
Wow.
Because I thought it was about work. And he
Yeah.
said, hey, you do a lot of work and you do some good work, but take care of your family, man. And I was like, wow. And so I thought, as a young person trying to rise in this space, that I just got to work. But he was like, the real value is in your family. And that's what Prez taught me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this dude is amazing, right? And also, he allows me, to be innovative. In fact, he encourages it,
Yeah.
right? To be innovative and courageously creative with our approach to education. And so that's who we are. And because he's like, okay, let's see how this turns out.
Yeah.
And the ball is in your court. What you gonna do with it? And I've been able to slam dunk all my life. Well, I'm old now, but I'm still dunking, proverbially. But and so when I met President Valdez and this new wave of not just the new wave of workforce, but this new way of educating humans, he accepted it. And we've been able to do that, based off of belonging. There's a practice that's been utilized for 17 generations. Indigenous people, they say in order to be and live a healthy life, you have to have belonging, mastery, independence, and generosity. So that's the foundation of Enrich, right? Where we believe that technical skills plus essential skills equals changed lives. And so with that foundation of mastery, what are you trying to master? With the foundation of belonging, who are you at the job? And independently, who are you, right?
Yeah.
And then generosity is essentially helping somebody along the way, right? Where do you volunteer your time at? Because all of this stuff makes sense. So at Richland Community College, we provide a safe place of belonging so that individuals can independently master their skills, their talents, their gift, and then practice a level of generosity along the way and share that experience with other people in the institution, right? And so I don't know of any other institution that practices that methodology and theology around education. And you should see the response from our counterparts or our partners. They always come up to me and say, we know when we have had a enriched student in our institution.
Man, isn't that testimony? That's great.
Just magnificent. I hear it all the time. I'm like, yes, right? And so, and when there's say for instance, I get a phone call like, hey man, did you train so-and-so? If it's a dump CDL driver that drive trucks. Yeah, he came through our program. Oh man, guess what he did? What'd he do? Like, bro, I ain't taking my garbage out. He walked to my up and grabbed the garbage and took it out for me. I forgot. That's generosity. They learned that in our particular trucking company, our trucking school, not trucking company, our trucking school. They learn generosity because we teach that, right? And so that makes that person a better human being. Now he's receiving Christmas gifts, right?
Yeah.
Because he's been a phenomenal person on the job. And that's what we teach in the classroom. Just be the best you. No matter what no matter what you're going through, be the best you. No matter what the circumstance is, be the best you, right? Not the thermometer, but the thermostat.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm very curious around the trauma-informed approaches. How do you help these students understand how to shift from the thermometer to the thermostat? Right? Because, there's so many of us. Even still to this day, you can walk into a room and there's an insecurity, something taken the wrong way, and you might not have high levels of trauma, but you do realize there's a shift.
There's something.
Like there's something that shifted.
Yeah.
And obviously the tools of recognizing that. But I would imagine a variety of the students who are really dealing with traumatic lifestyles, not just moments. How do you begin to really partner that with education? Like you get what I'm saying?
Oh, most certainly. So what's extremely important for those who are, first and foremost, the entire staff at Enrich are practitioners. So they go to, they take classes on becoming practitioners, trauma-informed practitioners. And some are trainers, right? I myself, I'm a trainer. So I train the other trainers, those who have that particular certificate. But however, what we technically do is we activate your parasympathetic nervous system purposely.
Okay.
Right? So once your parasympathetic nervous system is activated, now you are going into some of the, foundational stuff. You are going to go into what you've already heard: flight, fight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Right? We want to keep you away from freeze, though. We kind of want to keep you away from, because that's dangerous. Some people say fight is dangerous because people want to fight you, but that's dangerous for the person that's
receiving
triggering. Yeah. But freeze is dangerous because a person can go into a dorsal state out of freeze. In a dorsal state, it's hard to bring that person back. Right? But so you go into these 3 phases, and then it's my job to teach you how to regulate. Right? And so if I can teach you how to regulate in this moment, fine. If it takes a couple of moments, great. As long as I teach you how to regulate and you recognize the regulation process, then I've done my job. Because like I know, individuals either quit the job or get fired from the job because their parasympathetic nervous system has been activated. They've been, and sometimes, words are triggering. People use trauma triggering words. Maybe they've been called the N word, or maybe a woman been called the C word. So now she wants to fight, or maybe some kind of racial kind of gesture had happened on the job. Now people want to fight.
Yeah.
We teach individuals how to save yourself in that moment. Because again, we live moment by moment in this life. And sometimes 1 second can destroy your entire life. We see it every single day.
Yeah.
So our individuals in our workforce program, in our educational system, they are taught how to regulate in that particular moment so that they can still be who they are today, tomorrow. Matter of fact, better. Because they're like, then they get to talk to each other, right? So in the classroom, we practice, I'll say it like this, social engagement. The country has done a phenomenal thing, really, at teaching us how to be socially distanced from one another. Right? So, when the pandemic happened, domestic violence went up, rape went up, all the ugly things went up because the humans need social engagement. So right after the regulation process happens, I engage with these individuals socially and then allow them to talk what they experienced out.
Yeah.
Start talking to each other about this thing. And then I hand them some water, because that's another tool of regulation. And people leave that classroom like, oh my gosh, I didn't understand. I didn't know this was so good. Because a lot of people say, why do we do that? There's no value in it until they witness the moment and witness that the process and the programmatic thrust of regulating a trauma-triggered individual, right? And then what we do outside of the classroom is the students don't even know this happens, but we set them up in moments to where they are receiving positive reinforcement that will tap on their right prefrontal lobe, because that's where all the happiness and addiction is. So if we can keep a person in a positive state, they'll come up out of their hell-like conditions and be willing to live a positive life. And so we do that extremely well in the classroom.
Kind of like you're stirring it up to skim it off to put good stuff in.
Oh, most certainly. And we've even practiced this outside that controlled environment, right? One day I told President Valdez, you remember I told you, I bring some create something creative and crazy to him. He like, okay, just try it. I said, hey man, I would like to mentor a kid out of Chicago, in the O Block in Chicago. If you ever live in Chicago, arguably that might be one of the most, it's a heavy space, and O Block. So brought the young person to the city of Decatur. I told his mother, please only call him once a week. She's like, huh? I said, just once a week. And this young man, I went out of one of the roughest places in Chicago, moved to the city of Decatur in Wabash Crossing.
Okay.
Right? Now, Wabash Crossing, is Wabash Crossing.
Yeah.
So we put him in our program and gave him something to master in welding, right? And then he found a sense of belonging with the social engagement atmosphere there. And At first it was scary, and then the kid one day was on the radio show of Dale Coley. Dale Coley's show. He says on that show, "This is the first time in my life as an adult that I've been able to walk to the convenience store." He said, "In Chicago, I can't walk down the street. This is the first time I felt safe."
Yeah.
Right. So we take them out of this hell-like condition and put them in this particular environment and teach them mastery, belonging, independence, and generosity. And it's changed his life. Today, that young man has full custody of his daughter, has a home and a car.
That's
He's living
incredible.
his best life.
Right.
Yeah. So we've taken that strategy outside of the controlled environment to see if it works, and it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it, and I'm all for it. You know, I had told you this whenever we had talked before, that I feel like Richland and what you guys are doing through Enrich, it's honestly bringing redemption through accessible education.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really creating pathways and ways for people to be looked at as human beings, holistically get healing, belonging, and purpose, and being able to provide an ecosystem that causes a ripple effect within the community.
Yeah.
Because whenever you have healthy people, mentally, physically, emotionally, etc., you have healthy families, you have healthy jobs, it's a trickle-down effect, really, for a holistic approach within changing a community.
Most certainly. And helping one person is helping a household of how many we don't necessarily know, right?
Right.
And so that's the key. Like if we can get one individual from one household to buy into this thing of to change their life, we're changing the dynamic of the household and the trajectory of those who this person is responsible for.
Yeah.
And then you should see the many people that come through our program because of so-and-so.
Yeah.
I'm coming here because I saw him change his life. If y'all can change his life, y'all can, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's magnificent because I always say, well, we don't change lives. We give people the opportunity to change their life.
Right.
And they're like, oh, okay, well, I want the opportunity, you know?
Right,
And
because
then
you
we
got to be
usher
ready
them.
for it,
most
to really
certainly.
work for it and
Yeah.
sustain it, right?
Yeah. And we have a phenomenal, powerful, passionate team to help navigate these individuals from place to place, because this is what I realized, right? What I was able to see, a lot of the curriculum is based off my upbringing and some of the things that I felt like I needed when I was a child, needing a mentor, right?
Sure.
And then it's proven work, and it's the life skills and job skills and those two trauma-sensitive practices. But what I remember, my own brother, who I love, and I think is one of the most courageous persons in life, he wouldn't walk into Richland based off fear.
Yeah.
He was afraid. He needed me with him. And I said, oh my gosh, for real? He said, hey, bro, can you just come with me to do this part? And I'm like, dude, like, I've seen you beat up the most scariest people in life, you know? But he was afraid to go into Richland. So I said, okay, everybody needs someone to navigate them through this process.
Yeah.
Everybody. Right? Because they have questions. And some people are afraid to ask the question. But he was afraid to just go in and receive this opportunity to become a CDL driver.
Yeah.
And so when I helped him go, I walked in with him, signed him up, and showed up on the first day of class for CDL. And today he owns his own business, Smoothie's Trucking.
Okay.
Right? He was our first Minority Mentor Protege program recipient, and at Richland, and his whole life changed. But what if I wouldn't have went in with him?
Right. I think we can underestimate that the power of holding a hand.
Right. Yeah,
right?
most certainly.
Because I know, I think it's in general, but you pull yourselves up by your own bootstraps. You just suck it up and do it.
Right,
There's this just get over it. There's this stuffing of emotion that we're kind of all taught collectively.
Right.
But I know, like, even for me, like, my most powerful moments now is when somebody else showed up for me.
Yeah, most certainly.
Because, like, healing of being seen and connection and being worth saving, worth fighting for, worth showing up for.
Yeah.
Those are healing moments.
Yeah, so I reject the notion you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. My ideal is, yes, you can lead a horse to water. And you're correct, you can't make them drink. But sometimes you got to show them how to drink the water, or they'll forever be in need of thirst.
Right.
Because sometimes people don't know what the bootstrap is, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what the water is. They don't know. They've never tasted before. I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
And I've been lied to so much. I've been brokenhearted so much. I've depended on other people that let me down so much. I've been beaten up in this life. I don't know who to trust. So you got to hold their hand. There's power in holding hands. I like that.
I'm
gonna
love
take
it.
that.
Take it. It's
there's
yours,
power
man.
in holding hands. And so we've been able to do that with 3,124 people thus far. And right now, 81% African American, 90% are at work today. Because we had to hold some hands.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And we're not, a lot of people get upset with me because I don't know if I'm a nice guy in the classroom, but we have a point system. If you're sagging, I'm sending you home. After I read these rules to you,
I mean, there's accountability,
right?
right?
There's accountability.
Come on.
Right?
And that's a part of life and sustaining this once you get out of this classroom. Yeah.
So, our point system it mirrors ADM's point system. And so when you get a point for doing stuff you shouldn't be doing, right? And you can point out of the classroom. And that's just life.
Yeah.
And if you want to come back, okay, you can. But we will start with some essential skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, man, I think it's beautiful. You've definitely fulfilled the Reverend Jaxie's thing of going home and cleaning up your home, man.
Hey, man, thank you so much.
It's incredible what you guys have been
much.
doing in the city. I know. And, besides Enrich, I know that you guys are very innovative just in general with even going into the high schools and having students work on their associates. And you're breaking down the walls and going to the people and creating ways for them. And I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, most certainly. And so we have one of the most thought leaders. We have one of the most thought leaders for sure in Cristobal, President Valdez. And I would further say that he should get an award for being the best president, our community college president for sure, but the best president in higher education, because he's doing things that other colleges are mimicking. Right. So he's in the lead, and I'm not sure how he'll feel about me saying this, but and he's in a book on best practices, right?
Yeah.
So he's an amazing individual, and he's allowing us to do some amazing work. So when we thought about going into the high schools, he said, let's do it. When we thought about Prep Academy, he said, let's do it. When we thought about essential skills being a credit-driven, a credit-bearing program, he said, let's do it.
Yeah.
And some of the work that I do as an external relation, I have to deal with our legislators. And he said, do that work because it all works together for the good. It's the circle of life, right?
Yeah.
It's that ecosystem. And so I thank God for him matching, watch this, I thank God for him being in harmony with what God has for me, right?
Yeah.
And so the work that I do, I've ran campaigns in this community and been a part of campaigns in this community, and we have not lost any of the campaigns that I've been a part of and or ran. So, the Psalms 1 says, whatever the blessed man touch shall prosper, and that's been happening. And so I thank God for that. Right.
Yeah. Sounds like you're investing in people, not just degrees, right?
That's it. I like
that. That is a difference in bringing education to really help somebody thrive.
Most certainly.
Right. In a lot of different ways.
Yeah. And, it's been a beautiful ride. I've practiced this stuff on my own children, my trauma-sensitive practices, especially with my firstborn son, Malachi. And when I told Malachi he wasn't going to traditional college, he was like, what? Yeah. I said, son, I got the funds saved up, but we're going to do something different. Yeah. Right. And he said, why? I said, because you need a little bit more essential skills. And he says, for real? I said, yeah, you're going through one of my programs. Yeah. And he was like, what? I said, you're still going to college, but you're not going to, because he could have went to UNLV. His mother worked at UNLV, so he could have went there for free. And I said, no, you're going to come through the program at Richland. And he did so. And when he was done with his welding certificate, he was able to go to work at Caterpillar. And when he got some time under his belt at Caterpillar, I said, now you're going to go through our entrepreneurship program so that you can become a an independent contractor.
Okay.
In welding. And so I was extremely proud of Malachi when he finally figured out, like, Dad, dude, if I only work like 6 months, dude, I'm making like $200,000. I said, yeah. He's like, can I buy a Jaguar? I said, yeah. So when he, so our ideal of, sending the kids to a four-year university is profound. And I got my degrees, but also the ideal of sending them through a workforce training where they can learn a skill that will allow them to make the kind of money they want, not the kind of money they just hope for, is extremely key. We have to normalize going to trade schools and not making young people feel bad for not going to a four-year university. I think it's extremely important that we do so that they can feel a sense of belonging, a sense of pride, and stick their chest up because they have an associate's degree and or a certificate. The work we're doing with TCCI and ensuring that young people have this certificate in this new wave of workforce, everything is looking electric right now. So we have to make sure that our young people knows about this opportunity so that they won't get left behind, right? And so we've been, Karen, Di, and President Valdez, talking to counselors and talking to superintendents and talking to principals at various schools in this area. Like, listen, this is extremely important. Young people need to come get the certificate, and then by way of this certificate, you can go to school and receive your just not your associates, but matriculate into a four-year university if you decide to, or you can go right into the job portal with the ED certificate and make a lot of money to feed your family. It's about being able to sustain yourself where you are and feed your family. And then, our certificates are stackable, so you can always go back to school and receive more.
After I had left our first interview, whenever we had sat together a couple of weeks ago, a scripture just kept coming to mind, and it's in Psalms. But it talks about how when the Lord led the captives out of Egypt, they were like those who could dream again.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop thinking about that and the legacy and the hardship that your life has brought. You really have become such a phoenix and a symbol of hope for people with what you're bringing to them. You are bringing people out of captivity, of poverty, of trauma, of all sorts of things that they're coming out of Egypt and they're learning to dream again. And I can't wait for Decatur to really thrive and move forward with those dreams. Because when you're in survival, you're not dreaming.
Right.
And there's such a mental barrier. It isn't just approaching people holistically. You're really teaching people to dream again. And dreaming is what helps propel a society and a culture.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. Because you can see it in the individuals when they get it. And then when their dream is realized and their actions and their activities and their passion materialize into the very being that they want to be, is magnificent to watch. It's a remarkable work in the arena of tension and promise, where different dimensions of the human experience meet and shape one another, right? And then once their identity is shaped and they fully realize who they can become, that sense of somebodyness, now I can do exactly what I didn't think that I could do before. I can be exactly who God has called me to be. I can live the life that I want to live because of this simple moment. Somebody took a couple of moments out of their life to help me out. I went through a 10-week program that I received in 10 weeks that I could not receive in 12 years for whatever reason. And how dare we beat young people up from dreaming? How dare we beat their dream out of them? That is terrible. And so in our program, we make sure we are passionate enough to be intentional about planting that seed of hope so that young people can dream and adults alike can dream again. It's a beautiful thing. Thanks for bringing that up. Whether they come from high school graduate, the penitentiary, a trust fund child, a high school dropout and or a college dropout, or an individual that's a misplaced work or underemployed individual, they're all in the same classroom. And what I found is they have the same kind of struggles to get from one place of turmoil to the next place of prosperity and hope and dreaming.
Yeah. Well, Courtney, it has been such a pleasure to sit and to talk with you. I'm sure we could chat for hours.
Yeah.
We love the work that Richland is doing within our city, and I love how much you guys are celebrating, educating, and elevating all things Decatur alongside of us. We are looking forward to our partnership with you moving into the next year.
Most certainly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessings to you.